What up, creators? Before we hop into this episode, I want to remind you about our community at jointhehomies.com. The homies are the squad of legends who support what we do here at Black with No Cream so we can continue to build this platform into the best educational space for content creators on earth. And in return for that support, we give you a bunch of sick perks all month long, like access to our live stream tutorials and hangouts, bonus podcast episodes, and so much more. Check us out at jointhehomies.com. Let's go! And we are back with another morning roast edition of the Black with No Cream podcast, where every Wednesday morning we deep dive into creative topics with the goal of giving you a daily dose of motivation and inspiration. I'm your host, Ben Haggerty, aka Ben Real vs. the World. I almost forgot my name. And this is my co-host, David Malave. And it is, as of right now, while we're recording it, still his birthday.
Shout out. I got a 2-week-long birthday.
Yeah, 2 weeks. By the time you're listening to this, it's not his birthday, but we still celebrate anyway because champagne.
And Ben probably just got back from Hawaii at this point. So,
yes. So yesterday, I will have just gotten back from Hawaii, my trip from Hawaii, and it was awesome. I had a great time, I'm assuming. Saw some blue-ass water.
Blue-ass water for sure.
Some blue-ass water. Shout out to Cody Co. And boats and mountains or whatever else is in Hawaii, and was full on zen, bro.
Hell yeah. And then you get to come back, and then today, when you're listening to this, you got a film coming out today, bro.
Yeah, so right now it's the morning. If you're listening to this right when it drops, I love how we're trying to create the
it's fun, kind of funny. So today, this is dropping on Wednesday the 12th.
Yeah,
and
right
tonight on Wednesday the 12th
is my the screening for my new documentary that I co-directed with Andrew Sandler, co-edited with Shannon Griffin, co-produced it with Mike Parentu. It comes out tonight. It's about Lewis Howes. It's called Chasing Greatness, and we're having the premiere party tonight, which is exciting. We're at the Grove in Los Angeles, which is a famous-ass mall.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, we're screening the film there, and as of like maybe 10 minutes ago, I just found out that the whole screening sold out, so that's dope. Sorry you can't come in. But you can pull up if you want to and find us outside. I won't be outside probably, but you can look for us. But yeah, we're doing a whole red carpet, the screening and everything. And I thought that, chasing greatness is an important topic. I want to get into what the goal of the film was, the importance of the film, and how, I think it'll affect all of us that watch it in a motivating way. So, but if this is your first time tuning the podcast, you're probably wondering,
what the fuck is Black with No Cream?
Great question. Black with No Cream is the illest educational resource for content creators fueled by caffeine. Or at least I take my coffee black with no cream, but you can drink or not drink whatever caffeine you fuck with and still be a part of our community. We have thousands of members from all around the world working together by sharing content, asking for feedback, passing tips and tricks along to one another with the goal of pushing each other to become the best motherfucking content creators on earth. And you can join our private group if you want to by going to bwnc.com/join. We would love to fucking have you. Please join. And without further ado, I bring to you this morning roast episode in the second most epic podcast intro ever recorded right motherfucking now. Welcome to the morning roast, a place where you will get the most info from a deep dive into the topics that really need life with your host Ben and Dave, coming to you live today. Grab your cup of joe and take some fucking notes, you bitch. Yo, I think that just because I've been there already, we all gotta go to Hawaii sometime. Shit's dope.
We're already counting on it was fire.
No, I did. I bought this book though. Low-key, I bought this book because I'm going to the island of Kauai, or I've just gotten back from the island of Kauai while we're listening to this. And I bought a book, and I'm like 30 pages into it. It's only like 200 pages or whatever, but it like gives you all of the true, like these people. I don't know who these people are. Like scavenge this island. They've done everything. They've tried every resort. They've tried every meal. They've done everything, and they've written like an in-depth guide on how to like really kill it while you're in Kauai. Mm-hmm. I thought that shit sounded corny, but then one of my friends did it when we went to Joshua Tree. It was kind of cool because then when we were driving around Joshua Tree, she like knew what shit was. She's like, "Yeah, I read this in the book." Well, I'm like, that sounds so lame. But then
because my sister was telling me that she went to Thailand or like just Southeast Asia, and like literally spent 3 months on Reddit and every like website figuring out exactly like where she should go, what are the cool places, what are the like restaurants and food she should try and everything, and then she knew like exactly what she should do.
That's so sick.
And I was telling you how important that is because I feel like when you go somewhere you don't know, like it's really easy for your trip to just fly by and you've seen like 3 places.
Right.
Because you spend half the time like, should we do this or should we not? You're like, you're stuck in your hotel or wherever you're at, and maybe you're just like going to that restaurant right there that's right next to you.
Yeah, it's
and you're not
convenient.
like, you don't know that if you just like drive like a little bit, you'll catch this like crazy waterfall that's like hidden because no one really talks about it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's how you really like experience. So
Yeah, this dude that I just stayed with, who was staying at the house we were at in Miami, he's like, oh dude, you're going to Kauai, oh my god, it's the best island, you gotta get this book. And I literally had just sent the link to Lauren. I was like, should we get this? I'm gonna be so busy with these turnarounds on this deadline, I probably won't be able to read it, but do you want to read it? She's like, nah. And I was like, all right, we'll just go with whatever we find when we get there.
Yeah.
And then I was like, fuck, this guy's like, dude, get the book, I promise you could read it on the flight there.
you have 6 hours.
6 hour flight. Yeah, I'm good. I'm a slow reader, but I'm good. I'll figure it out. I'm fast. But I got the book, and also, you know what pissed me off is that I booked our car with Turo, that app Turo. Have you ever used that?
No.
It's like
I've heard of
Uber.
it, though.
It's like Airbnb for cars or whatever. But
Yeah.
I booked a Jeep Wrangler, and then the chick just messaged me yesterday, and she's like, "Hey, my top doesn't work. It's stuck. So now it's on for good, and you can't take the top off and be like in a enclosed."
Yeah.
And I'm pissed.
That's trash.
It's pretty trash, huh?
You should try to figure it out.
But now if I went to buy a Jeep, it's like twice as much, like cost wise. Like they literally spiked that shit because I'm trying to book it for tomorrow. So it's
so
like,
you can go windows down but not top down.
yeah. My dad's like, take it to a dealer and fucking ask them to take. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to a
time.
dealer
No
on my
time.
vacation, bro.
No time.
Give me a car that works, yo.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna call Turo. That just reminded me that I have to call Turo.
You should call Turo because they should either give you a refund or find you a Jeep.
find me a Jeep for the same rate.
It's the same thing as Airbnb, bro. Like, who was it? It was when we had Brian Z on the podcast.
Uh-huh.
He talked about how when they went somewhere,
Oh yeah.
they couldn't get to the Airbnb or their host wasn't answering, and they like figured out how to get Airbnb on the phone,
And they
Airbnb
fixed that shit.
like comped them, made sure they had a place and like whatever they could find, because they have a responsibility to their customer service, especially if they're trying to build like the name of Turo. Because
Yeah,
if you
of
use
course.
Turo once and you're like, oh, my Jeep was fucked, and especially you'll be like, I'm never using that shit again.
No one used that shit yet because there's no brand deal there. All right, let's talk about the documentary, the big guy. We started doing this film in 2017. Me and Andrew. So Andrew had gotten contacted by Lewis's team, right? I guess Lewis had seen Chris Brown's documentary, saw Andrew as the director of it, whatever, and was like, yo, can we do a meeting? And he was inspired by the way Chris's doc was filmed, but also the music video aesthetic. That was like kind of what drew him in. So Andrew's like, yo, you want to go to this meeting with me and this guy, Lewis House? And I was like, yeah, I listened to his podcast. This dude's fucking sick. Now, I've been listening to his podcast for a while, for like a couple months, and I have no idea how I got put onto him, but you know what I mean? He's like one of the top podcasts, so I listened to it. And I go to the meeting, we meet at Soho House, and Lewis sits us down, and he's like, yo, this is my vision, this is like what I'm trying to do. And we started talking more, and we're both from the Midwest. He's from Ohio, I'm from Iowa. We got along really well, and me and Andrew kind of came into it dominating these two aspects of like me understanding the Midwest of like his culture of where he came from, and Andrew's mix of like film and trying to take it to another level, and combining that with his message, which overall is, I mean, his podcast is a school of greatness. Like his whole goal is like unlocking greatness. You know what I mean? And that's what he wanted to do with the film. He's like, I feel like my story is okay, but I really wanted to focus on the idea of chasing greatness. Like, what is it and how do you do it? And by talking to my expert friends and people I've interviewed on the podcast, how can we really cultivate that? He really didn't want it to be about him. And me and Andrew kept hitting our heads against the wall because we're like, yo, how do we make a documentary about this guy without making it about this guy? You know what I mean? And still create a proper story. And then after talking to Lewis, we like learned more about his story. He had this really insane thing where he got molested as a kid and held on to that for a shit ton of years. Became this all-star football player and like went on to play pro and all this stuff and got injured. And even till his later years, finally like announced that he had been molested as a kid, wrote a whole book about it, all this shit. And it's like this really intense story. I'm like, what if we find a way to parallel these key facts about, you know, tools and things that you can do to apply to your life to make your life better by telling this guy's story and how he did it, utilizing those things. You know what I mean? Because indirectly, we would find parallels that worked. You know what I mean? We'd interview Esther Perel and all these like top tier speakers, and through their interviews, you hear them say shit, and we're like, well, that kind of makes sense to what he did when he was a kid, or when his brother went to jail. That kind of made sense. So it's cool because that was like his goal, and we walked away with it, and we were pretty motivated. Me and Andrew were kind of like, we hadn't really done anything in that whole like self-help space, but Lewis was like really adamant about making the next Secret. Have you ever seen that or read the book?
No, I haven't. That reminds me, I heard about it. One of my best friends just got me The Alchemist. He sent it to me.
I heard that's great too.
And I've heard that the bone's great, so I'm gonna check out The Secret, I guess.
Yeah, so I heard about the reason, like when it clicked for me, because I had just toured with Q, 2017. Fuck, when was this? I had just toured with Q in 2016. Right? Yeah, so the end of 2016 going on 2017, I toured with Q, and when we were in Germany, I'll remember it like it was yesterday. Me, him, and Dylan, his personal trainer, we were all sitting on the bottom of the bus, and Q started talking to us about he had just got nominated for a Grammy, which was so crazy to me. He had been nominated before, but blank face, I got nominated for a Grammy, 2 different Grammys, and I was like, man, that's really crazy, like that you got nominated for a Grammy. He's like, yeah, but it doesn't affect me because I envisioned this shit. And then he like circled it all the way back to him and Kendrick Lamar way back in the day before they were shit, recording music, trying to make shit, out of Carson, California. They're like in the studio, and they would literally like lay on the couch, and they read the book, The Secret, and like started paying attention to the idea of like creating mood boards and create vision boards of like who they will become and what they will do. And he's like, I've already seen myself win Grammys. I've always seen myself sell millions of records and get plaques and all this shit. He's envisioned that, and I'm listening to this and being like so inspired, like, damn, that's crazy. Like maybe I have too, just I haven't really put too much thought into it. And he approached it from the aspect of like, I will become that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And anyway, that was like an inspiring moment for me. It was like one of the best takeaways. I think I did that Reddit AMA, and like someone was like, what's the most important thing you ever learned on this, from Q? And that was like one of the main things was like, yo, I learned about The Secret. Because the next day we were in Nimes, France. I don't know. We climbed that big ass Coliseum wall and got the drone shots and shit. Mm-hmm. But before that, I literally like downloaded it, the Secret documentary, and watched it. And it's fucking old. It's like 15 years old. It's so trash if you watch it, but the message is still the same. And when Lewis brought it up, I mean, I had just learned about it like 4 months ago, and he's like, I want to make the new version of that. I'm like, yeah, I do, because that shit's old as fuck, and it's outdated, and it needs like a new push. And I'm like, and I also got so bored because it was a lot of good ideas, but there's no story to it. It was just like powerful sentence, powerful sentence, powerful sentence, powerful sentence. And you're like, okay, like which sentence am I supposed to walk away with? Because I can't remember all this shit.
Right.
But the idea of tying those powerful sentences to a person's true story and showing the arc of that was motivating to me. You know what I mean? Like we've done music docs up to that point. Never had done something like this. Andrew had done one with Ryan Blair. He did a documentary about him, who's like a public speaker, and he owned a company, sold it for a shit ton of money. And he made a documentary about his life story. But other than that, it was music docs for us. And so it was cool to take on the project. And he really loved the idea of us being like cool in music and being able to bring that new aesthetic. He's like, what if we pair that with a storytelling ability and like bring it together and try to find some way to create like a magical piece. I don't know, I'm just rambling right now, but that's kind of the beginning.
So that's what that you're explaining, like the purpose and the inspiration behind like what the film's supposed to say.
Yeah.
So then you guys get into production, and I remember you telling me that you wanted it to be like as quick as the doc could be. You wanted to crank it out, and it obviously is coming out now in 2020. So how did can you explain like the road that you guys like went through to like get this film out? Because I do think that one thing I learned from you is I think like documentaries, no matter what you think, they're always going to take like twice as long as probably
3 times
as you could imagine, because of just how tough they are to like make happen.
I don't know why we did that. I don't know why we thought that, because at that point when we did Chris's doc took 2 to 3 years to come out. It took us like over a year or like 15 months to cut it, cut it, and then another year and a half of like legal bullshit and whatever, and then distribution, all this stuff for it to come out. Mary J. Blige, hers out of all of them were probably the quickest. Like we shot the doc, edited the doc in like the craziest amount of time, and it came out on VH1 like immediately. It came out before Chris's doc came out, so people technically, I was like celebrating this.
Oh, you were celebrating the second
Mary's
accomplishment
doc.
before your first one.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
It was really weird.
Yeah,
and then Chris's film came out after. Honestly, when Mary's film came out, I didn't think Chris's was coming out, and Mary was inspired by Chris's film because she had seen like a rough cut of it and was inspired by it, and that's why we did Mary's doc. And so for Chris's, it was like me being like this editor on the film, me and Andrew co-editing the film. Then Mary's doc, me being the editor, and I think Andrew was like an editor on it too, but also a second shooter with 𝐅𝐎𝐋𝐋𝐿𝐼. And then Lewis's film, which is funny because it's like I did Lewis's film before Beyonce's film, but then Beyonce's film came out before Lewis's film did. But we started Lewis's way before that. Right. For Beyonce's shooting, being a shooter on it and being able to shoot not only the live performance but behind the scenes. And then Lewis is to co-direct and then also produce and manage that shit plus editing with Shannon. It's funny to see like the elevation of it. But when we took the job, we looked at it from the aspect of like, we know everything about this guy. Everything he's ever done in life is literally through his podcast. He's shared most of it.
Right.
As I'm learning, as I do a podcast, it's like, I mean, honestly, if you listen to every episode, you're going to be able to
You'll know your entire story.
You'll know a majority of it. You know what I mean? Which was actually really fucking challenging. It bugged me because when we started doing it, I'm like, man, like what don't people know? You know what I mean? And I interviewed Lewis. Like there's one setup where it's Lewis in front of the camera and I grilled him for like almost 3 hours. Like I just asked him all the questions I could think of. Me and Shannon really beat our heads on what questions we wanted to talk to him about.
Like what holes you wanted to poke to find new stuff.
Yeah, because we had already laid out a lot of the film at that point by the time we did Lewis's interview, which is actually funny if you watch that interview. We had booked a location. This is also why you should prep and also do scouting. Okay, so we booked a location on an app where you can like find locations. I can't remember what the fuck it's called.
Like Peerspace or something?
Peerspace or some shit. Yeah, Peerspace. So we booked the location on Peerspace. Looked fine. Looked great actually. Big, industrial, looked cool for like the vibe we wanted to go for Lewis's interview. And we wanted this to be a master interview compared to all the other interviews are like we were doing them off the cuff in a hotel in Ohio.
Right.
So we booked this spot and we get there, whole crew, everybody, and we're trying to find a way to make it work, but it wasn't what it was in the pictures. Like it just didn't match. And we didn't have time to go check it out. I don't remember why, but for some reason we didn't have time.
It wasn't that it had like some sound or something? Or am I tripping?
No, it didn't have sound. It was just it didn't look cool. Okay. It just wasn't the fucking spot for the superstar of the film to be filmed in.
Yeah, exactly.
And we were trying to find multiple ways to set up. We were moving all kinds of things around, trying to rebuild it, all this stuff. And we had to eventually pull the plug, and it was like literally when Lewis and Matt were driving to set for us to film them, we had to call them and be like, yo, look, this isn't the one. Like we got to reschedule. Like let's reschedule. And it sucked because me and Andrew had to bite the bullet. We had to pay our crew full day rates, all this shit, because we took everyone's time up. And we had to eat that cost. But then we were able to get this, I can't remember the nightclub we shot at. Andrew probably does, but it was like a really nice nightclub off of like Fairfax or something. I think that their day rate for you to book that place is like 10 racks a day. And we got it for free through a homie. Shout out to Buster. And we got to go in there and we started shooting, and I'm getting ready. We're all excited, and Lewis is pumped. He's pumping us up like, let's just do the best we can. You know, Lewis is the best guy. Like anything you see about Lewis Howes on the internet is fucking for real. Like that dude is the most motivating guy that'll just jack you up all the way. And he's like, let's go. And we sit down and we start interviewing each other. About 20 minutes into it, you just hear a bunch of like in the background, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? What's going on? What is the noise? There's a kitchen that is in between us and another restaurant, and I guess this whole nightclub is owned by the company that owns the restaurant, so they share a kitchen, and there's no door from the nightclub into the kitchen, and these dudes are cleaning pans and all this shit before they open, and there was no way to shut it down. And we kept asking them, yo, stop. They'd stop for like 10 minutes. We get back into a groove. Then you hear these fucking pots and pans banging again. Dude, I literally was having a heart attack because I'm seeing him lose focus because he's thinking the audio is going to be fucked up.
Yeah.
And so then he's not telling us
best stuff.
No, he's not telling me anything good. And And it just kept getting worse and worse to the point where we literally had to do it again and say, we have to, like, they can't stop because they have to open up, and we have to stop because we're just going to get a bunch of shit racket in the background. So we had to can it, and luckily we were able to get that spot again for free. I'm pretty sure both nights were free the next day, and they fucking weren't working. We came early enough that they weren't working, and we crushed the interview. But, like, that shit was the most stressful shit ever. Like, thinking that we just had a $10,000 freebie that we just blew because of the
second time.
The second time. After we already spent, I don't even want to know how much we spent on the first day.
Right.
Whew. What a lesson, dude. But,
so that's an example of the challenges.
that's definitely one challenge that we ran into when we were making this film. But overall, we came into it thinking, yeah, we could, like, when me and Andrew signed up to it, we weren't really busy. We both lived together still at this time. We lived at the Sunset House.
Nice.
And so we had took the job. It was cool. Lewis is a great guy. I love it. We've already done 2 films. We're feeling like we're the shit at being able to crank out documentaries.
Yeah, you're like warmed up already.
We're warmed up. We kind of have a process. And then we bought a WeWork space for us to create a war room out of. So we like rented this spot. It was so expensive. Rented the spot for 5 months, I think, or maybe it was 3 months or 4 months off the top, because they gave us a deal. It was like, oh, you can have it at like 30% off, but you got to pick how many days or how many months you're in it, and then after that you have to pay full price. We're like, oh, 3, and then it turned into like 6, and we had to pay so much money.
They bank on that.
They know,
like, always know,
because you could say longer. 3 years, and you could get it at this ridiculous rate for 3 years.
That's interesting.
No one wants to take. You don't know.
Because you don't want to lock in. You don't want to lock in. They'd rather you say 3 years, and you pay 3 years versus 3 months.
Exactly.
You're scared, so you say no.
So we said 3 months, and then we got fucked. But we created a war room. Me and Shannon cut it. Andrew was there all the time too, but it's just, I mean, Shannon's the one that fucking killed this shit. She fucking took it to another level, especially like as the Black with No Cream shit started going full force. I'm like very like scatterbrained all over the place. So it was really helpful to be able to pop in and have Shannon have full control and be able to like fine-tune things, watch things back. No, let's change this and this. And Shannon just dialed it all the way to the end. Still, right now, she's editing credits like to get this thing prepped for delivery.
Shout out to Shannon.
Shannon's awesome. A fucking legend.
The stories of her, I think she probably talked about it in her episode, right? Her interview.
Probably.
We interviewed Shannon on Black with No Cream, so check that one out.
Everyone that helped us make this film pretty much has been on the podcast, minus Alexander Nikishin and maybe like our ACs and
one of the DPs, right?
Yeah, Alex is our DP. Mike Parentu, he was on the podcast. We did that in Lauren's office. Shannon was on the podcast. Andrew Sandler was on the podcast. Kavika was on the podcast. Kavika did VFX supervising on that shit, which I think we pulled some of that because we had a really cool intro that was VFX heavy. I think we stripped. We got rid of the whole intro.
Was tight.
Yeah, we actually cut the whole intro.
Well, so we can get to that, but before we get to because that was a challenge, was essentially like the film.
Damn, there's so much we could talk about.
I know the film was done, and then there's a passage of time that now required some like adjusting.
Mad changes. Because so we finished the film. All right, just to finish what you originally asked me, we thought it would take us 3 to 4 months to do a documentary. It took us 2017, 2020. It's just now coming out, so it took that long. We finished the film while I was on tour with B. Around mid tour, I remember finishing the film. We even screened it at Soho House right when I got home from tour.
And so I went.
Yeah, that was like top of 2019.
Yeah, top
January, February of 2019. We screened it at Soho House. People love it. They're blah, blah. Everyone's crying at the right times. They're laughing at the right times. They love the film. And then Lewis's team's working to find distribution. Like, what do they want to do for distribution? And it took a long time because it was like it's kind of a hard thing to sell because it's like a self-help thing and it takes a specific crowd. But Lewis's fan base is so thick that ultimately we decided to push it. Like, so he's distributing himself, and it took a long time for us to decide to do that. Up until like a month and a half ago, we had a meeting and we sat down. We're like, yo, how do we get our whole goal was like get this film out to as many people as possible and help people. Like, how can we give them a key to life that they haven't had before that can hopefully unlock some new ways of them like kind of living their life. And so we had a meeting and we kind of discussed it and we decided, let's do it. Let's send it. January is top of the year. Let's try to get this thing out. Now it's February, but still, like the goal is like let's
piggybacking off the high of the beginning.
Yeah, let's just start off the year on a good shot and see what happens. Which involved Lewis had from the film recording had a different girlfriend that she was in some of the film. Now he's dating a new girl. Like he's had a whole transition in his life. We had to get rid, cut out all the old stuff and put in. We didn't put in the new girlfriend, but like just cut out old stuff just to make
stuff
it so
that's not relevant as much anymore.
It was irrelevant. And new title sequence. We redid the intro. A couple different things that we just took a restab at, and then Kobe passing. Now we added a clip of Kobe's interview that Lewis did. Lewis interviewed Kobe, I think, like midway through this last year. Really good interview. You should check it out. But we added like a cool snippet at the very end of the credits, which is pretty moving.
That's awesome.
Yeah, at the very end.
Damn, I'm gonna be sad to see that. That's
it's dope. So we just had to do a bunch of recutting and whatever. So Shannon's back on the job, and she's got we have a 24 terabyte hard drive that she's like.
Can you imagine how many times Shannon has watched the film?
So many times. She's like, can I please not watch it during the screening?
Like she'd rather just be drinking outside.
She wants to step outside and drink. Yeah, it would be so funny. It would be actually.
She should, honestly.
I know.
Every time, because I think they've talked about this process in her interview, maybe talking about like the quality check, quality control
QC
process.
is a bitch. Yeah.
But like every time she does anything, she's watching it back, like all the way through.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know how many times we'd have to watch it over and over again, and then you export it and screen it for people and do all this stuff. I mean, we screened it at WeWork. They have a really cool theater in Century City. They have a cool theater in there. So we screened it at WeWork when it was like done, like a rough cut of it was done. And I can't remember who came through, but we screened it for these people. And yeah, just to get it to that point, you have to watch it so many times. You watch it and you edit, then you stitch it together and make sure it flows, then you export it, each reel and each section of the film, you have to rewatch that, then you have to link it together and export one final master, and it's a lot. And I did that through Chris's doc. I've seen that fucking movie a gajillion times. Mary J. Blige's doc, seen it a bajillion times. Like, you have to make sure it's good. And we even talk to the interns about this all the time, because say we put out like a YouTube video for podcasts and they go and drop it, and then all of a sudden there's like a random bar where they disabled a clip and they didn't realize it, but that's because they didn't watch it back after they uploaded it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you just never know what happens in the export process. Even.
Exactly.
Like there could be like a glitch, and you can't have that in the final film.
No, yeah.
You also can't show it to a client like, oh yeah, this is a perfect film, and then they're like, what happened here?
Well, and it's happened to me where it's like, hey, this isn't right. Like, there's a bunch of black bars in this thing, and I'll look at it and be like, oh shit, and then I'll just try to like quickly blame it on the upload. I'm like, oh, it must have had a glitch when it uploaded, because it's fine on my end. Let me re-upload it, and then I go back and fix the problem.
That's a finesse, yeah.
But you have to if you're in like real time, you're gonna like export it on your computer and show it. Like when we would be with Chris, he'd come in for a music video and we'd like export out a reel of the film and be like, hey, do you want to watch the film? He'd be like, yeah. And then we'd start playing it, and if it was fucked, we'd look like dumbasses.
And you're losing his attention.
Yeah, you're losing his attention. Oh, hold on, it's like, we gotta fix this. Like, no one has time for that. So I had to sit there, watch it, make sure it was fire, and then be like, all right, cool, it's approved. You know what I mean? Quality check is so important. But anyway, yeah, she is not really like trying to watch this, I think, at the premiere, but I think she will, because there's something satisfying about watching it with people.
To see the reaction of people, like, you put in this sound effect, and then the people like, oh, or whatever crazy, it is, man. You know what I mean? I think one of my favorite things, just to be quick, when I visited the WeWork that you guys were editing the film out of, what I loved the most was seeing the story building that was happening on the walls. So you guys would... Yeah, I want you to talk a little bit about this. So you guys had all these sticky notes. It was sticky notes all over the wall, and it was like you guys essentially like mapping out the story visually that you wanted to tell, so that way you had it up there as reference when you're editing and trying to figure out like, oh, you know what, we say this, like then this quote comes, and how does this lead to this? And I thought that was really cool for me, because I had never seen something like that before.
It's helpful.
Can you explain?
Yeah, it's like, I think we learned that during Mary's doc. Like, so Chris's film, we had gotten a bunch of the interviews transcribed. No, I transcribed them. I would write them all out, hand type them and shit. And then we'd print them off, and I would like highlight certain lines, and then we'd have piles of paper, and there's all these different interviews where people talk over an hour, and you know what I mean? Like just different markings and notes on that shit. And it was really hard to like remember what you had. And then when we did Mary's doc, I remember we were in the middle of cutting it, and then we got to that point, and at some point, I don't remember how me and Andrew came up with it. We're like, oh, let's just write it all out on sticky notes and put it up on the wall, on the window, And I think there's a video of like Andrew doing a circle on the chair and like me, or maybe it was him, like moving the sticky notes around, because we were literally like put down everything that we had from the film. We put it on a sticky note, and then that became a
Like
piece of the
like a
puzzle.
piece, yeah.
And so you could kind of restructure it. And I remember learning that really early back in Iowa. I was reading a script writing book, and it talked about storyboarding and script building and design your story, and how a lot of these people that would write these stories would like write this shit out on big ass like cardboard or note cards, and you would like put your things down, and you'd separate it into the 3 acts, and you try to build your story and like build your characters and who is involved in what and blah blah blah. And we applied that to this, and it helped a lot with Mary's. I felt like we were going at a really slow rate with Mary's film, and as soon as we put it on sticky notes, it was like we knew exactly where we wanted to go. We're like, all right, so if it goes from here, and then Mary talks about going through a divorce, and then we know she goes to the studio with Neo. We know she goes in the studio and rewrites these songs. We know that she puts out the shit, and we know she goes on this TV thing. We'd have it all on sticky notes, and we'd be like, what if this happened here, or this, and we laid it out, and they're like, oh, cool. So now we know. Now we just have to go to the parts and put the parts together to build that passage.
Or you're missing a piece, and you're like, okay, we need someone explaining that this divorce was a life-changing moment for her, so let's go sit Mary down and ask her that. Or
which we learned during Chris's film, when we actually had to take out somebody because him and Chris didn't get along anymore. There was like some beef or some shit, and the guy said he wouldn't. It was funny. The guy's like, I'm not gonna be in it unless Chris apologizes to me. And then I guess Chris apologized to him, but it was like a half-assed version of it. He's like, nah, he didn't even mean it, fuck him, I'm out. And he killed it. And me and Andrew were like, fuck, because he was in a majority of the film, gave such good comments, and we're like, fuck. And we would be like, okay, what if we interview 2 more people and we ask them those same like people that would be able to answer those things? Let's ask them those questions so they could almost answer it the same way,
right,
to fill in those blanks. But it made sense. Like because at that time we were doing Mary's doc, and Chris, now this is happening, and Mary grew up watching Chris, so we were able to ask her questions, and we literally would set up our questions so that her answer would most likely reflect what that person had said. Because we're like, oh, she for sure saw that when he did the fucking Michael Jackson tribute. Let's have her talk about it. And she did, and it worked, and then it would fill in those gaps. So it's like, it's really funny like how you can really piece together shit like it's Lincoln Logs, you know what I mean? And you can really put it together in a certain way, and that sets up a lot of it solves a lot of problems because you see it all there, and it becomes really smooth. But with Lewis, we did that. We had 4 walls in this WeWork spot, and that's what sucks about WeWork, is that it's all glass, and it's supposed to be like an open environment so people collaborate and shit, but we wanted privacy and not to talk to anybody, and they said that at the halfway point you're not allowed to put anything on your windows. And you would literally come around the hall, like when people would give tours to, when you're like, oh, I might try WeWork, you like walk around the corner and you just see bright neon pink, yellow, purple, all these colors. Our whole window is like stuck in the sticky notes, and fucking we had marker all over the windows and shit.
It looks like a science lab or something.
Like a CSI investigation or some shit. But that shit helps elevate so much, because we could be like, oh, cool. We interviewed Maria Sharapova, like a superstar tennis player, like won the USA Open or whatever the fuck, legend. So cool, Maria Sharapova, her name's there. Then we had all these cards underneath her of all the things that she talked about in her podcast. Like not like in depth, just like, oh, she talked about family. She talked about losing. She talked about getting back up. She talked about blah, blah, blah. And we'd have all these, every interview we did on one wall with all the things that they talked about. You know what I mean? All these story points. And then we would look and be like, all right, so then we have Lewis's timeline. And what happened in Lewis's life. So we like literally had a timeline from his birth to how old he was now. And we broke down every year all the milestones that he made. And then we kind of structured with those sticky notes. We could be like, oh, cool. Lewis talks about, his family going through a divorce at when he was 6 or whatever. This person talks about divorce and how that can affect your social ability to communicate, and this can change their mental description of like how you register love and all this shit. And we take those and we put them over there, and then we kind of have them lined up, and then that shit helps so much because then you're able to look at it and build scenes. You know what I mean? And then we could literally develop scenes, which was super cool. Super solid tactic for people who are building documentaries, in my opinion. Yeah, that was dope. We could talk about this all day. I hope, you know what would be dope? I need to talk to Lewis. We should do it. Me, him, and Andrew should just sit down and Shannon should have do a podcast and just talk about this shit. Because he's a brilliant dude and he means really, really well. You know what I mean? So his message is super positive. And I think that this film is super helpful and motivating. And it's hard for me to be attached to shit after I do it. Like we just talked about last week with, we've only seen, I'm losing my voice. We only seen Homecoming once, which is so fucking weird because it's the biggest thing I've ever done to date in my life. I've only watched it one time. Lewis's film, it's like I've been because I've been a part of it for so long. You do it so many times that you've seen it. There's nothing new that really like draws you to it anymore. Same with this film. It's like we've seen it so many times that we've been a part of it. It needs to have the outside validation now for us to move forward, which is cool. That's why Soho House screening was amazing because everyone got to watch it at Soho House and we didn't know any of them. Like we were only able to invite like 10 people and then Soho House members could come watch it and the theater was packed. For some reason, I have no idea if they knew Lewis or if they were just curious, but they were able to come watch the screen and people fucking went off. They did a Q&A. We sat up there and talked forever. It was really cool. And then Lewis screened it at his Summit of Greatness in Ohio, which is where we filmed the majority of the year before. The next year, he screened the early cut to like 1,000 or 1,500 people. My homie was there. He's like, bro, people were crying, like clapping, like hugging, all this stuff. You know that it's going to do something for someone. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's the payoff. It's just time to see it. So I'm excited that tonight or next week, you'll see that. Like I'll see it at the screening. You know what I mean? Like see people talk.
Yeah,
about
and we talk about this. Like there's the two sides of the art, right? And as at some point, like you have the sharing part is the part you need. You know?
Yeah.
Like you already have all the validation of making it, creating it. You understand it, but now it's been so long. It's time to see like how if people receive it the way you want to.
Yeah. That's a good little insight on the film, I feel like.
Yeah, that was dope.
For Morning Roast.
Yeah,
That's cool. As you know, we always end our Morning Roast with the question of the day from our Patreon community. So if you want a chance to have your question asked on the podcast, you can sign up at jointhehomies.com to ask your question on our private Discord channel. We appreciate everyone that's signed up and supporting the podcast. Helps us keep the lights on here in the office and allows us to make these Morning Roast episodes. So shout out today to Josh Adams. He actually commented this on the last interview we did, but I thought this was I want to piggyback off it. But he goes, I'm sure most of your work is directly commissioned now, but when you started out, how did you approach cold emailing potential clients? Did you already have thought out ideas for projects with them, or did you just try to make an initial basic connection first? I thought this was good because he asked us to Red Glasgow, which that episode comes out next week or this Sunday.
This Sunday when this comes out.
Yeah, this Sunday. But I wanted to play off it because it's cool, like thinking about the idea of getting jobs and on all levels, right? So the difference of like trying to get a superstar artist to like let you shoot a music video for them and you pitching them on an idea or showing them a proof of concept to you getting a job shooting product shots for a local coffee company. Like the same techniques can really work. And I think that like for me now so more than ever, I've been busy enough that people have found out about my work and keep hiring me where I'm not really looking for it. Mm-hmm. But there are projects that I think I would want to look for or ideas that I would want to explore to try to execute that until I talk to someone about it.
Like you have to initiate these
Yeah,
conversations.
it won't happen. Yeah, they're not just going to assume I have fire. Like they know something's good, but like they don't know, you know what I mean? So like I always say that I have Calvin Klein in my back pocket because they used Jay's shit on tour because he was wearing a Calvin Klein shirt or whatever. And I have their contact so I could hit them up, or Rihanna's people, I could hit them up. But it's a matter of putting the idea on paper and having the time to really facilitate. But I
and also having the intention to really like come through on it if that came to it.
If they're like, yeah, we love it, can you do it? I'm like, no, I'm going to Hawaii, then I'm going to Alaska. So
yeah,
maybe next year.
No, like you know, like yeah, the intention to be able to like really make something happen.
Yeah,
I feel like there's two ways to go about it. Because there's your way, which I feel like there's the way of coming at someone with like an idea that you have that you can implement and you have the intention to really make happen, right? And starting a conversation that way. And then there's, you know, the other way of when he's saying just making a connection. I think that part of it is just like reaching out and identifying something that you could provide value for that person.
Right.
or what you do that they need, or what they do that you'd like to fit into, et cetera, et cetera. So like, I think those are two ways to go about it.
Well, like
not every situation it's like, oh, I have this idea and this is how we should do it.
Right.
But some of your conversations at this point are more so like people know that you're valuable, but it's like you're gonna want to come to these people with something really to talk to them about, because they're talking to so many people.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I look at it too, like back in the, I'm sure I've shared this shit because I've told everyone everything. But when I would do the Google photography shit, like when I first got it, I was trying to get clients. I would like email people and just email them and be like, hey, trust me, this is dope, blah, 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 and maybe send some examples. But most likely they were getting a fucking shit ton of emails, whatever, and I barely got any clients out of that until I like started really dialing in presentation. And I'm like, okay, what if I walk into that business and say the same shit I said in the email? Will it be effective? What if I walk in there and have my iPad with examples of what I'm going to do for them already there, and also have a printed out like cardstock thick paper that's designed for them specifically, like I curated this for your company, like a little pitch deck with verbiage about what I'm going to do and examples of whatever that I could leave them with. And as soon as I started doing that, everything changed. You know what I mean? Because it's like there's a personal aspect to it. I stuck outside of like the norm of just, hey, what's up? My name's Ben. This is what I do. Blah, 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 blah. Check out this video, and this is what I do, and blah, blah, blah. Look at this. And everyone's like, I don't got time for this shit. Even if you promise me it's the most effective thing that's going to change my business, I don't got time for this shit. You know what I mean? And that's a majority of people. So when you find new creative ways to pitch, you're going to succeed 10 times over. You know what I mean? That's a whole nother morning roast.
Write it down.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll put it in there. Hopefully that explains that. But
I think if you do have an idea that you know you could bring, that don't create an idea just because if you have no intention to actually make it happen, it's just as useless as just like saying, hey, let's work sometime.
Well, and sometimes you gotta learn like what you sometimes have to get in to understand what they're doing in general.
Right.
Like you might. Yeah, okay, cool. I have an idea where I want to drive a NASCAR 1,000 miles down the street and put your logo on it, and that's going to be cool. Yeah, but we don't really associate with NASCARs.
Right.
Or, yeah, we don't really want to put our logo on stuff. You know what I mean? Like, just getting in the door and hearing their intention of where they're trying to go is the first part, the hardest part.
Right.
How can you do that?
I feel like at the base level, you want to study the person you're contacting and figure out what they do, what they might need, how you look at their stuff, like how can I improve what they're doing, what value they can provide, right? And then you have to identify, like let them know what you've done, show examples of what you've done, explain how you can make their operation better, and then show examples that back that up. That's like the base, the what I would consider like the textbook way of get that accomplished first in terms of if you're trying to reach out to clients like and get your foot in the door with them. You want them to understand, like, oh, this guy just hit me up with a real professional email, and he's explaining to me, this is what he can provide for me, and he's willing to work with me, and here's examples. Look, this is tight.
Yeah.
Like, that's the base level. That might not be enough. Yeah, that might not be enough, but that's the base level. And then further than that is, do you say, hey, like, I really feel like what you're missing is this type of video, and I made this with this client, and this is what we could do, et cetera, and I see you have this going on. Maybe we could do it there. That's like the steps of creating a fully formed idea. But
yeah. No, I love that. All right. Cool. Big shout out to everyone that leaves reviews on our podcast on Apple Podcasts. Each review helps us reach new creators, so we appreciate it. We like to highlight the best reviews each week and send a set of Black with No Cream stickers to those Black with No Cream members that do dropping their reviews. So if you want a chance to win some Black with No Cream stickers, you just got to drop a review on Apple Podcasts, and then I'll screen capture it and put it in this little document that we read at when we do these morning roasts, and you'll, hear your fucking name and shit. That's tight. This one's a 5-star, of course. All of them have pretty much been 5 stars so far, which is dope. I don't think I've seen any other ones than that, but excellent resource for ideas and encouragement is the name of this by Leon Prawn. It says this podcast continually gives advice on how to have a career in creative pursuits. The stories of the guests are interesting, full of inspiration for those of us trying to make it happen. Couldn't agree more.
Concise and very fire.
Glad you're getting what we want. Yes, I do too. Creative pursuits is a good word. 2 words. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you for leaving that. So DM us with your address so we can send you some fucking stickers. That's it for this episode, right, Dave?
Yep. So check out our episode last week with Ty Rogers, sports creator working with some of the biggest artists in sports programs, and then this week,
including what's his name?
Cam Newton.
Cam motherfucking Newton. Yeah, he was shooting all of Cam's stuff until Cam got hurt, like this end of this last year, I guess. So, but yeah, great story. Who else is on this?
And then Red Gaskell this Sunday.
Yeah, check out Red. Red worked for, he built like the whole structure of 368 for Casey Neistat. He's worked with a bunch of major brands. And he had a book that had a bunch of Kanye West tweets that paid his rent for fucking several months.
Oh, damn, that was his?
Yeah, that was his book.
That's crazy.
I know, it's a good.
Does Andrew have that?
Probably.
I think
it went mad viral.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to just hear the story. Listen to the story. All right, new episode every single Wednesday and Sunday. We'll see you next week, you bitch.